You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Greg Hectus.
400!
What?
400th episode. That's crazy, huh? Brian McGovern.
Hey everybody, happy Saturday.
Yeah, an odd Saturday for a recording. And Justin Pearson.
What up, my friends?
Welcome to the iRacers Lounge 400th episode. On the show today, we'll review the final eNASCAR Coke Series race before the final championship race and see who will be in the Final Four. We'll check out iRacing with a projector and ask if iRacing needs more legacy NASCAR options.
Yeah, that's right, Mike, and you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all these great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com and selecting the show notes. So log on to iRacersLounge.com for our 400th episode, and we'll see you there.
All right, let's open up with Petty's Pontiac. We've got a picture of Petty's garage, and it has the car that you can finally drive in iRacing, the 97.
And a neat video that shows how they scan it and what the process looks like. Basically, it starts with putting, looks like to me, painter's tape or scotch tape on the actual car. On the tape, it's got dots that are spaced out, looks like every 4 inches. And so they basically put the tape on all the contours of the car. Every time there's a lot of tape on the car, in other words. And then they have like a handheld scanner, and they're just kind of walking around the car with this handheld scanner, just kind of pointing it at the tape with the dots on it.
That's got to have a really sensitive gyro and accelerometer in it.
I think they were, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago they got this special gun that they've been using to scan cars, and it's like one of the more sophisticated things to produce these vehicles.
I just love how it looks like a pretty easy process, as far as getting the scan. You can also see a moment at the end where the guy is taking photos with a high-res camera. So I know photos are a part of it as well. But, it made me think, they go to Petty's garage to get this old car. What if we, let iRacing get access to the Indy Museum at the property at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? There's some major Indy cars in there from the past. How about some Indy Classic?
We'd have to call it Star Classic.
Do you remember when they were showing this tool being used a while ago on one of these 87 cars when they first scanned them? I think the first two, wasn't it the Monte Carlo had damage to it and they had to interpret it to fix it on the program?
They had to fudge it, right, where the damage was. You're right. There was a story where the designers had to kind of fudge it, and pretend as if there is no damage and just fill in the gap, so to speak.
Well, it's very cool to see the not the guts of the car itself, but the guts of the process. So it's another time for As MSG Dies episode, and we have the MSG CEO resigning.
This is the guy who was the CEO and he went away in disgrace. and then somebody else was running it, and they didn't know what to do, so they brought this guy back, and now he's leaving again.
Yeah, this cannot be a good sign for the health of this company. When you got CEOs who are bailing, especially ones that came in, like you said, Mike, to try to breathe some life back into it. It seems like this company is it's in its death throes. It seems like I'm not making any predictions or wishing ill will, but it sure seems like this is what happens when companies die.
I, I've been cardio verted in my life, and I've had that. I don't think that would even help this company if you wanted to take paddles to it and try and save it.
So the reporter is none other than Mike Straw, who's given us these stories about motorsports games before. From InsiderGaming.com, he writes for. I'm going to read a quote from his article. There's not a lot of meat here, but there's this quote. The news of Costco's departure from the company's board also comes on the heels of motorsports games losing multiple lawsuits filed by employees for unpaid wages. It's uncertain, however, if there's any relation between the resignation and the suits. Costco was CEO during the period of unpaid wages claimed in each case. And that date of September 30th is still looming ahead, guys. I feel like that we're going to learn a lot more about the landscape of NASCAR console gaming on that date.
Yeah, and maybe it's an indication of IndyCar too, because IndyCar's wrapped up in this as well.
Yeah, more to come on that later. Meantime, why don't we hit a couple of patch notes, Justin?
Yeah, David. We got patch updates for 2023 Season 4 release. A paint shop fixed an issue where the paint shop could freeze or run very slowly upon switching cars. Did you know about this, Brian? You paint a lot of cars.
No, I haven't really messed with that yet, but I've been not doing a whole lot lately until I get my computer fixed. But yeah, I did hear from our teammate of ours, Tyler Williamson. And he told me about the new paint stuff, and he really actually likes it quite a bit. It's getting a lot closer to like a painting program that you would use like GIMP or something like that. It's getting a lot more intricate than it used to be.
There's a pretty good chance when I paint my next car, I may try some of the features, then turn around and export that to put in my, the personal sponsors, but use it to make it a little bit easier to get all the paint lined up, I guess, on the base pattern.
You have to ink twist it a little bit. They have a bunch of different patterns that make it easy to pick paints. You just kind of pick some colors, kind of cycle through the patterns, one you like, and go.
The nice thing is those patterns have always been there in the files when you get them, but now that they have this, they're working on their paint shop, it's more of a, to help out the community for people that can't pay for the programs or don't want to try and use some of the free programs and learn them. If they tailor it to what we're doing, it makes it a lot easier.
Also, on the patterns that have gradient type effects are really hard to change the color, because when you have to change kind of all of them at the same time, rather than being able to say I want to go from this to that. You can do some gradients on Adobe, I know, but then you have to be worried about if the gradients go in the right direction in every part of the car, because you might have the nose pointing one direction and the side of the car pointing a different direction in the template. So doing gradient type paints is a lot harder in the custom painters.
Now back to the release notes. One thing I noticed in this patch, one for season 4, the new tracks at the bottom, all 3 of them that they put out in this season have significant, well, not significant, but a lot of different adjustments to graphical adjustments. I guess my question is, they know when they're releasing these, you would think that they would get all this stuff buttoned up in time for the actual release, but it seems like they get to the deadline and they put out what they got, and then they the next few days they're finishing all this stuff. Or is it they didn't know that they had the problems, and when it got to the public these problems surfaced? I don't know what the story is.
Well, Mike, when you're reading some of this, like I get what you're saying, because like if you see on the one for Zandvoort, there's like street lights have been added to the tunnel entrance or waste bin. It's almost like you're saying they needed an extra couple days, but the patch had to be released, or the thing had to be released, so they just released it, and they just knew that they were going to update it a week from now or 2 weeks from now, whenever they got to it, right?
Yeah, it's like, are they not done, or is this stuff not uncovered until just recently that we forgot to do this or that? Like the Kern County one, for example, they had to add Barney the flagman at the dirt track. So they actually released these tracks for dirt without a flagman at all.
That's inexcusable. How could you forget Barney?
Or Barney.
I mean, he already has to wave that arm so much. There's no way he doesn't have like tendonitis and arthritis, and then they're gonna just do that to him.
Yeah, just lots of little fixes I see. Nothing to really go over there. And then there was another hot fix that came out as well over the week. And this had something to do with security. And they did thank a driver, Ander Gomez, for responsible disclosure of the reported issue. As a reminder, security issues can be reported at infosec@iracing.com.
I mean, those little things always creep up, especially when you start, having the big amount of people logging on, and there are a lot of smart individuals that look through code and just in general look at through a lot of the stuff once a patch or something comes out, and people like this, third party wise, really help out the community.
Why does it? To have an actual community member, find a security loophole before a bad guy does, get it reported internally, let them fix it before public disclosure. That's the way it should be. It's great.
This is kind of like one of those white hat hackers, who go in and hack stuff and just to find loopholes and report it.
Well, I would guess so, Brian, just because this ain't just something you just stumble across. You have to go looking for it, I would presume.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I was thinking.
well, like Brian, I know what you're thinking, because it's like those guys that they when a game releases, they look at what's in the files, and then is there something in the files that gives out some future information and things like that as well down the road that they left behind or things like that.
Yeah, there were some other graphical changes in the graphical settings. But yeah.
All right, so Barney's really patient, and apparently Indy is too, Brian.
Yeah, so this kind of piggybacks with our last story about the motorsport games situation that they're going through. But apparently, the NTT IndyCar series, they're going to be practicing some patience with motorsport games. As we all know, it's their chosen partner for a video game for Xbox and PlayStation and PC, and they own the rights to all IndyCar stuff, and that's why iRacing can have an Indy 500. So, amidst all this turmoil that's been going on, IndyCar is still got their still being patient. They're not making any rash moves just yet, which is bad news for us iRacers who want IndyCar back in the service. But we'll see. I think this is still a fluid situation here, where you know they're being patient, but I'm sure there's going to be a point where they can't be patient anymore, or if the company gets to a point where they let IndyCar know that they're not going to be able to come out with the game that they want. So I appreciate their patience. It seems like the right thing to do. You don't want to. You do have they do have their eggs in this particular motorsport game basket. And I think they're just ready to ride it out until they can't anymore. And I think they're just saying at this point they're not quite at that point where they're ready to just ditch it and move on.
But there is a clue about when that point might be. I have a quote here in the article from Racer.com from Mark Miles. Mark Miles is like the CEO of IndyCar or something like that. So I'm going to read it. Quote, "It's still not clear how it will end. I think a lot of really good work has been done with the current partner, MSG. They put a lot into it. We've seen evidence of how it looks. It's amazing. But they are struggling to have the resources to finish the job. So they're working on other ways that other partnerships could be established to help them get it done. Whether that will play out successfully or not remains to be seen. I think it will be clear by the end of the year. One of the reasons they desperately want to finish is they think that it is essentially a breakthrough technology in the market and will have relevance in other sports."
Yeah.
So end of the year.
Right. I don't know. It seems like anything that's kind of revolutionary as far as the technology goes is going to need more than what those guys are offering their employees who are building this revolutionary technology. It's hard to motivate people without paying them to do this kind of work.
There's no way they're going to hold on to that technology without it getting leaked now, considering how many employees they've screwed over.
I call BS on that part. I really do. But
right.
You know, and the other part where they're trying to establish partnerships that could help them get it done. That to me almost sounds like we're trying to sell what we got to another gaming studio or hand it off to be finished elsewhere or something along those lines.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, Brian. To finish what Mike you're saying there, if you look at the way that they've worded the title of it, they're staying patent with motorsports games. It doesn't mean that motorsports game doesn't get bought by someone else and then finished afterwards. So it's not like they're staying there and it's only going to be this way. Aren't we supposed to figure out something by the end of this month? We're supposed to hear something. There's some announcement about it.
Yeah, well, from NASCAR, right?
Yeah, they're going to make it public what the deal is at September 30th. That's what we've heard.
Yeah, but if I'm going to call BS on this as well, Mike. I don't know that for sure, but if another investment company gets a peek at this and they're saying, "Wow, this is revolutionary," they're going to jump in. They're not going to just let it slide to some other investor. I don't think it's as revolutionary as they're kind of touting in this article. Otherwise, I don't think they would have trouble getting investors.
Good point. IndyCar racing.
Well, but they're not. They're probably using an outdated engine. They're probably not going to like Unreal 5.
Well, they're not even paying their license. If you remember, Greg, from last week, they're not paying their license for Unreal Engine.
Yeah, so if they're not, if they're not paying for that, are they still getting assets from Unreal? The only thing that would be revolutionary in the racing world is if they make it like an RPG type racing game, and I don't see that changing. It's a racing game. I don't know what the revolutionary was. The revolutionary things happened like 20 years ago or 15 years ago when iRacing had simulators and all these big simulating companies came out. That there's nothing really you can revolutionize on the racing general genre.
Well, when you say revolutionize, I think of iRacing. I think of it takes years to develop these models, the tire model, the physics model, the damage model, the rain model, the the weather model, everything, and it all works together, and that's revolutionary how that's being done, I think.
All right, well, stay tuned. Next, same bat time, same bat channel for another episode of a day in the death of MSG. Next up is a little bit more fun topic. We've got the Mazda cars running ovals at season 4. I was it's marching season. I've not been on much at all other than to get ready for Bristol this week. So I didn't get to try it out during week 13, but it looks pretty neat. And I was watching it, I was thinking it would be interesting to see the Mazdas plus, say, the Legends in a multi-class kind of thing.
I almost joined one of these, and I thought better of it because I was afraid of losing IR for oval, and it was probably a good idea.
Was it actually official?
I wasn't sure, so that was one of the reasons I didn't do it. But they were running the Mazdas at South Boston, is what it was. And I'm like,
most of those series, unless it's one of the series that's always around, is not official.
All right. I wish they made that more clear somehow, communicated very, very clearly which ones aren't and aren't. Some color coding or something.
Doesn't it have in parentheses official to the ones that are actually official during week 13? At least on the website it does.
Yeah, it's hard to say with the UI. The UI thing that bugs me right now is I go into hosted and looking at the events, and where the car would show what kind of car it is, it says like image not available or something like that.
That's a flat out bug. But a race that definitely is go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Donnie ran this, but I didn't hear what happened.
All right. Well, I had a funny transition for us to the Phoenix Coke race, but forget it. Phoenix Coke race, go.
Well, it was crazy mode. I mean, the other thing I noticed was yellows were on iRacing. They didn't have like Tyler throwing the yellows. So is that new? I don't know, but iRacing was throwing the yellows. Throughout the beginning or most of the race, I was a bit turned off by the kind of the way it was playing out. But at the end, it was a great storyline where there was this late caution, and Tucker Minter, is the leader, and he stays out, and everyone else pits. It's like the classic, do I pit? Do I not pit? We're at the end of the race. And whatever the leader does, that they're going to do the opposite of what he did. And that's exactly what happened. He stayed out. Everyone else pitted. I think there were actually 2 other cars that stayed out with him that were kind of in the back or whatever. But then after that, it was just like one restart after another. They kept getting cautions, and he was holding it. Tucker Minter would get these awesome restarts, launching out of the restart zone and just get like a 3 or 4 car length lead, going into one. And they would catch him by the backstretch. And as they get to the start finish line, I mean, they're right with him and about to overtake him. But then the caution would come out again. and he lived through all 3 green, white checkers, or however many there were. I think there was a natural one in there. But yeah, he ended up winning it just by the hair on his chinny chin. I mean, at the end, it was just like a foot difference of when the flag came out. What do you think, Justin? You had a lot to say about that, I think.
Well, they really, I haven't been watching every week, but they seem to play out in the same way. They go kind of decent until the last 40 laps. Then it just gets real sloppy, and just like our NIS races. But that Tucker mentor, he deserved every bit of that. I can't. Those last couple of restarts, like you said, Casey, or that mentor would get him on the restart and clear him in 1 and 2, but then Casey would be just barreling down 3 and 4, and every time yellow. But yeah, it was a good race.
And the yellows were in the back, typically, not the guys up front racing. And there was a lot of discussion about that. Like, we can't even finish a race because these guys are wrecking for 25th. That's all I heard after the race on social media from these guys.
You know what? I have a problem with that statement. I get tired of hearing it in the real races too. We're at the top level, or really any level. Are we in a race, or is everybody else just supposed to go into a parade while the top 5 race? And how do you get to the top 5 if you don't pass 25th and then 24th and 23rd, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. And you got the best people in the service, too. So you got to look at it that way. Now, Matt Busa, who's one of the drivers, he did a thread after the race, and he's a stats guy. And I'm going to read what he wrote and then put on the Twitter. Let's start with the positives. The eNASCAR has some incredible racing. Shout out to Mike Conti, Nick Ottinger, for being the only drivers without a receiving fault for an incident this year. Only 2. In 17 races, there have been 160 incidents in which officials placed blame on a driver. 13 drivers are responsible for over 55% of the incident. 7 drivers make up 35% of all incidents. In all 17 racers, at least one of those 7 have caused an incident. So while there may be other factors that don't help us drivers, it still boils down to drivers being careless and reckless. How do we fix this? Stricter punishment for those drivers that cause a lot of wrecks, or just need to hope we have a better field next year?
I do like the fact that their incident system is actually judgment based. Instead of just, if you clip somebody, you hit the incident limit. When they get suspended for incident limits, it's because they caused them.
We've seen Vicente Salas set down for a race because of too many incidents in the previous race. So you're right. Now, this is interesting. I think that 7 drivers make up 35% of the of all the incidents. So 7 out of 40, and then 13 are responsible for 55%. So think about like this 13 out of 40. It's like the bad guy.
Well, think about it as well. We see a similar pattern in the NIS, right? How many times do we say that guy usually causes a problem, and then 10 minutes later we hear somebody cussing him out on chat?
Well, you're right, David. There is some similarities, but I think in NIS we're not calling out more than 5 out of 40. Okay, so like when I start a race with Justin, I'm telling you, watch out for XYZ, maybe 4 or 5 guys at the most. Maybe I see 3 or 4. I say names out of, right?
But there's not as much on the line, and they're not as tightly skill packed. We're not racing for 100,000.
Now, some of the replies on the Twitter to Matt, Cole Young said, never should have shortened the races. And I agree. I think that's a driving factor. Remember, these racers have been shortened this year, and I think part of last year, but they used to be longer.
They're not half the distance anymore?
They are running shorter than the NIS races.
Yeah, they're shorter than NIS.
That's stupid. Is that just because they're doing that just to fill the time slot?
Like a TV time slot, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or maybe just maybe they think longer races they get less viewership.
or maybe they see that the viewership falls off or something. I don't know. So it's hard to say why they did that, but I think that could be part of it because
We just lost your mic, Mike.
yeah, because when people, when like you said, they're racing for 20th. You got to remember there's a 20 people that are transferring into next season's Coke Series, the top 20, and if you're in the bottom 20, you're out, and so there's a lot on the line, just not the championship or the win, but there's all this top 20 business going on.
And so every point can count. And I mean, it's the same way in real life where they fight for every position and don't ever let anybody go because they won't get let go when they come back nowadays.
Well, they have sponsor obligations, team obligations. They got a job to do. They're the what, one of the 36 best Coke racers in the world. So, why are you not allowed to race? I just don't understand that.
Right on that point of they've got a job to do, and that job is not to sit there and ride in a parade while the top 5 battle it out.
So, one other idea is if 13% of the drivers or 13 of the 40 drivers are the ones causing all the problems, maybe it just needs to be a stricter situation with those guys. They get more penalties for more the more incidents you get, maybe the penalties, get higher and higher. I don't know.
I do agree with that. I think they do need to be a lot more stricter. That's the problem. It's still a simulation. There's no attachment to the car. In real life, a driver can't wreck. You tear off a right front. I mean, you got thousands of dollars worth of damage. So then you got the hit itself. It's still a game in a way, and so that's why you need to be more strict. There's no fear, I guess you want to say.
You also don't have to worry about if you cause problems with somebody, them coming up and pulling a Ross Chastain on you.
I mean, you'd also don't have the fear factor of actually getting hurt, unless your steering wheel comes back and breaks your thumbs or something. But also, like, did you say it was Solace that had a penalty this year?
Yeah, he was just one of them that I remember. But yeah, he was certainly one of them.
I think if
he set out a race.
If they set out more races, then like if they have things, I think that the penalty needs to be, if it's something that's they got to come up with a better rules for it, I guess, that aren't gray. They're more black and white. But if you're sitting out and that your team will start saying something about it, your sponsors will start saying something about it, and then if you're losing points, you're never going to be a chance for a championship.
On second thought, though, is that what we want? Or do we say the same thing with real NASCAR, or do we want more boys to have at it and just keep the officials out of it?
Self-policing. That's what we want as a fan.
I think the other frustrating thing is that some of that stuff comes from the net code and the cars not actually being as close as they are sometimes too with incidents.
And right as I said, the self-policing thing, the points that because it's not real, it doesn't have the same consequences as self-policing in real racing. So that I just kind of countered my own argument there.
I'm going to put on the Evan Pasoko hat. Let's talk about the top 4 for the championship race, which is in 2 weeks at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. These people will be in person racing for the championship. Steven Wilson, he makes it in on the points. Garrett Lowe, Nick Ottinger, and Tucker Minter. Tucker Minter, Final 4 as a rookie. Very impressive this year. Tucker Minter, I think he has 3 wins now, including Daytona. So he's definitely hot right now going into the Final 4 with winning this last race on old tires, holding off all the guys on new tires. I don't know. I mean, Steven Wilson has got experience being in the Final 4 at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He was there last year in person as well. You got Nick Ottinger, who's also been there, done that, previous champion, and then Garrett Lowe, who has something to prove this year.
Yeah, Tucker Minter kind of bookended the season, right? He won the first race and the last race before the finals. Maybe he'll bookend it with a win next week.
There's a couple drivers that this is their last season competing, right? Conti's going to be done after the last race too, right?
Yeah, and that's a little bittersweet that he didn't make the top four, but he didn't.
Had a great season too.
He did. I mean, it kind of fell apart in the playoffs, huh?
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, he was one of the two drivers who didn't have any of the fault issues with all the incidents too.
He's going to leave on a good note.
It'd be neat if Mike Conti won the race at Phoenix, even though it's not the championship.
And we have had that happen in this playoff format for the Coke races, right? Wasn't the champion second place last year?
Yeah, we had a different winner, and of course he doesn't get all the prestige that he normally would get, with somebody else, taking the championship. But yeah, I think it has happened.
And that would be no different than when it's one of those races where the title is literally already locked up, right? And the championship drivers trying to only get like 20th because that's all they got to get. Anyway, well, 2 weeks. It'll be an exciting race. And they're having the season finale at a proper track too, instead of Phoenix, even though apparently Phoenix put on some fun, at least online.
And we're going to do a live reaction.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching it live, at least with some of you guys. So we'll be on Discord, and if fans want to or listeners want to join us, hit us up on the Discord, and you could jump in with us.
We'll get a public lounge channel working for that.
Yeah, that's always fun to do, and it's going to be a neat show. I know Dale Jr. is going to be there, and Steve Letarte, and those kind of people. Probably Parker Kligerman, and there's probably be other drivers there. I think last year they had some other NASCAR drivers show up, and shake these guys' hands and that kind of thing.
All right, well, let's wrap up that recap so that we can talk about season 3 recaps. Brian, we got Talon Smith showing some numbers for iRacing, and he makes me look lazy.
Yeah, this guy's racing a lot. So this was tweeted or X'd, whatever you want to call now, from iRacing. And they just highlighted Talon Smith's numbers for his season 3. He started at 329 races. Average first on his starts, average second, 270 wins, and 12,000 laps driven. So a lot, very, very successful. His iRating was up around 9,000, I think it was, close to 8 or 9. So really good driver. But I think part of the story is that this is some of the new results that you can see on the app, right, Mike?
Well, this is an email that actually went out to every driver. So check your email box because you got one too. I posted mine up to the group. I think I had 2 wins in season 3. This is unbelievable. Some of the numbers this guy has, and now that I look at it, it says here he's led 9,700 of the 12,000 laps he's driven.
I just think it's very interesting that his average start is first. So that means he doesn't. He always has the pole. He always has the pole.
He always gets pole.
Is this guy oval or road based?
I don't know, but I'm tempted to go look now. But yeah, it's iRacing retweeted his results, but they picked him for a reason. Obviously, he's got some of the biggest numbers out there.
Y'all want to spit out our results real quick? I just pulled mine up. Greg's will be 2 starts, right?
Maybe, if that. Actually, did I have 2 starts? I had 2 starts at just Darlington. and it was road heavy this season. So this season was road heavy, so it'd probably be better.
I had 48, and with an average start of 12th, actually, which that's probably based on the road races boosting me because I don't qualify that good in oval. 2 wins and only led 4 laps out of 200 and 2,500 basically.
Oh, it doesn't do NIS. It just does just something in general.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So
I had 1 start.
because NIS is still season 1.
Okay, I found mine. 17 race starts, average start 12th, average finish 14th, 2 wins, 2 top 5s. I led 124 out of 687.
And again, that doesn't have NIS in there.
Right, so that's pretty good. I mean, 2 wins out of 17 starts. I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, I love stats. I think it's cool that they email them out.
I actually looked up Talon Smith's profile on the handy dandy iRacers app, iRacing app, and his 8,000 is in oval, which I was really surprised. I thought that might have been a road thing. Typically, the road guys are the ones that, if you're really good, you get a lot of wins and a lot of good finishes.
What
is he running?
Yeah.
Is he like a Ty Majeski in late models, or?
He's doing a lot of the NASCAR Legend Series.
87s, wow. Maybe he's looking for a team.
All right, Brian, we have a Woo late models report.
Yeah, so this past week, they were back after taking off a week for Labor Day weekend. Monday night was the Bunt Kicker World of Outlaw Late Model Series, and they were at Lincoln Speedway, my home track, if you want to go by location in real life. And wow, the streak is over, folks. Evan C. did not finish on the podium in this race. He was in position to, and it got cleaned out by a different driver and wound up not finishing the race. And I think he finished 18th or 19th. So the streak is over. But he still carries a huge lead going into the final week. The winner of the week was actually Logan Rumsey, who took the win. Tanner Tomasi finished second, James Eden third, and Tanner Tomasi is the one who kind of cleaned out. He kind of cleaned out Evan C. About halfway through the race. They were going down the front stretch of the track. Evan was on the outside, he was on the inside, and came up and did not clear him and kind of took him out. So he really got beat up by the cars coming packed in behind him. And that was the end of the week for Evan C. Logan Rumsey, who should be very familiar with this track. He's a local sprint car racer in the 358 sprint cars at that track in real life. So it's kind of neat that he won a race there. There's 1 week left. Even with that terrible finish, Evan C. is still holding on to like a 42-point lead going into the last week, which basically, if he makes the final, the heat, the finals, he will probably win it without any trouble. There's still an outside chance that somebody could take that championship from him. It will be his second if he pulls it off in a row. Logan Rumsey is in second in points after that win last week. Kendall Tucker is in third, who is Evan C.'s teammate. Blake Majulis is in fourth, who is also Evan C.'s teammate. So as far as it's called Majulis C Speed Shop, I think it is the team. They have three of the top 4 finishers in this championship season at this point. So really good year for that group. We have one last week coming up next week at Charlotte, and that'll take us down to the championship season and see if Evan can hold on and take his second straight championship.
Still, it's got to be #pain for him, to have all those points and then have this happen and just like give up that huge chunk of points, even though he's probably still good. I mean, it's got to be painful.
Yeah, I mean that and the streak of podium finishes was almost 2 complete seasons if it wasn't for yesterday or this past week's race. Um, just amazing consistency in a series where those cars are really tough to drive and they're beating on each other all the time. So yeah, it's a pretty good run, even though it kind of ended this last week.
Now, Brian, isn't this the track that's local to you? You've been to? I mean, how does it feel like watching it virtually?
Yeah, like I said, it's like 25 minutes from my house. Been there many times. I've actually raced a 305 sprint car on there, and I've raced a Legend Start car there before. So it's a cool track. It's a little different just because of the way the pit road works. In real life, the pit road is on the outside of the track. It's not on the infield like it is in this sim. But and I don't think I've ever seen a late model race there. It's typically always sprint cars or hobby stocks or legend cars. So that was kind of weird actually seeing the full size late model cars there. I'm sure they come once in a while, but they don't come there very often.
All right, how open do you feel about the next topic, Justin?
Yeah, David. This is a kind of interesting one. I never really thought about it, but he's got a point. Brett McBurney posted in the forums that there used to be a close all option to remove pop-up banners. I forgot to explain that part, but yeah, he posted on the iRacing forum that there used to be an option to close all banners, and now he's got to take an extra step in the UI and close multiple. And some people have an issue with this.
I don't like it. I mean, you go in and out of sessions, and these little pop-ups, they start building up on top. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four sessions, and then they tell us they're going to have a hot fix, and then I go to another practice and there's 5 pop-ups, and they're literally covering the screen. And unless you take a moment and click each one of them, that's the only way to get rid of them. So he's right, there used to be a closed all. Somebody thought it was a good idea to get rid of the closed all. I'm like, maybe we don't even need these pop-ups. Or can we opt out? Maybe there's a little check mark, opt out forever.
I just like how they used to do it on the website. It would go to the screen that said your results, and then once you clicked on it, it would go to the other stuff. Like, why does it have to be on top of the UI? It's like it feels like it's added to the UI on top of it.
Yeah, they think they're being clever, but you're right. The old website had a good flow to it, and they should have just copied it. Like I said a long time ago about that beta UI, if they just copied the functionality they've already honed down to a fine science in the website, they would have something good that's usable. I mean, these little things are just annoyances. Sure, we can all click the little X, 5 or 6 times, but we shouldn't have to. That's the point.
I feel like we're all the old men sitting on the front porch yelling at the people walking by, saying, "Get off my lawn!"
Look, if it was less clicks, I wouldn't be yelling. More clicks is bad.
So we've been talking a little bit about the legacy cars. We just put out a new one, and the next question comes from a user who's asking. It was the user is Jason Patterson, in fact, and he's asking if we should introduce other eras into the iRacing realm since we've added the 87 cars, and a lot of people are wanting late 90s or something along the Twisted Sister era.
Either it's the Twisted Sister or it's the. Would that be the Thun? No, with the Thun. It's not the Thunderbird Lumina era, is it?
So yeah, I mean you're talking specific to NASCAR. So we have the current Gen 7, we have the old Gen 6, we have the Gen 5, which is really fun. We have the new Gen 4, and then we have the 87s. So, yeah, I think they're just saying, let's fill in the gap, right? What else is left?
And is this the feeling because the ovals additions the last little while have been underwhelming? It's more road centric the last little while. Oval has been to the small short tracks, or the dirt tracks have been oval centric more because we basically have all the big tracks that are the major series tracks. It's just filling in all the short tracks now on the service. It's not There's not much we can do besides add different car types.
People may not remember, but the Twisted Sister car, the arrow push was a big thing, right? About the only thing they didn't have was the double file restart. So at this point, restarts really didn't mean jack, because not only did you have to have enough car to pass another car with the arrow push, you had to fight the lap cars too, and they could hold you back. I don't remember that era being so super nostalgic, other than people, I guess, grew up on that era. I would find it more interesting to go way back to something in the 60s or even 50s, maybe.
Is
That's an
Well, that's
Hornet
what
days.
hold on, before, just to finish that off, David, do you think that era's irrelevant because it was so dominated by one driver?
No, because I liked that driver. So no, I mean that, but which driver? Because there was a transition in that era.
Gordon
Yeah,
dominated that era.
But it was still. When was Earnhardt's last championship? Because he was pretty good in that time too.
Wasn't 94 his? No, yeah, 94. I thought.
So yes, well, late night. Then it transitioned to Gordon, and then Jimmy dominated through like 4 different types of cars.
Jimmy
Right.
got the end of the Twisted Sister era, though.
Yeah, he started with the Twisted Sister, did the COT, did the next gen. They basically started changing all the rules because of him, and he still kept winning. But I remembered because I was also racing the Twisted Sister in R Factor, and Aero Push was a thing back with that car too.
So, a couple of notes on my end are iRacing recently renamed the 87 series to something like NASCAR Legends, which is a clue that they're not going to add additional cars. I think if they had a plan of adding these other cars, I mean, those would be considered legends too. And what would you call them versus the 87s? And they probably would have stuck with the original 87 series name if they had a game plan to add these other cars, I would think. But
Well, they could call it the Gen 2s. Look at all the F series that we have in the Formula series. They got F1, 2, 3, 4. Like, there's all kinds of different F series. I wouldn't see why they couldn't call it a Gen series.
And another thing is, so Jason Patterson in his post, he titled it "Gen 4 has been successful. Should iRacing try another legacy car?" Is the Gen 4 success though have more to say about the current car than it does the Gen 4 car? I kind of think so, because the Gen 4 is all the stuff that we're looking for in the current car, and we don't have, and we're just searching it out in other ways. So I think if the current car drove was more fun to drive like the Gen 4, then I think there would be probably less outcry for these legacy car editions.
I agree.
But can we ever get back there with I don't know if we can ever get back there with this car, because there's too much grip in the car and too little horsepower. If you want to boil it down, that's basically what it needs. But NASCAR will never figure that out. They kind of sort of went a little bit more horsepower,
The
but
manufacturers won't figure it out because they're stuck.
Well, they can't sell cars with that much horsepower, right? Because of all the gas guzzling.
But they don't sell Mercedes Formula One cars. They still have 1,000 horsepower, and they still top of the notch in their series of all cars that are there. Like it's supposed to be the pinnacle of racing. That's what I never understood about this argument of horsepower. Well, you're not going to sell it in. Okay, none of those cars have more than 200 and uh, maybe 350 horsepower that they come with from stock with a V8 in them nowadays. So it's just it's ludicrous to think about the 550 being at or to sell it there. This is supposed to be the pinnacle motorsports. No car on the road runs with racing slicks. No car on the road has a diffuser.
That may be the best argument yet. And but the only other counter argument might be that if they give them more horsepower, they're more likely to get airborne.
My car doesn't burn my ankle when I'm driving at Bristol.
Look, you might not need more horsepower if you got rid of the bottom of these cars that's sucking it down to the ground, and then do a ride height rule and get these things up off the ground. The fact that they can't tow a Gen 7 car if it has a flat tire is comical. Okay,
I feel like that's
what
the
a
best
fatal
thing they should
design!
try.
What a fatal design!
I think, Mike, that's the thing that they keep. Like, why not have, say it has to be, I don't know. I don't know what a realistic height is. 2 inches off the ground without that, like,
Right,
at the
ride
lowest
height
height it
rule.
can be.
And then guess what? They can tow them because there's a ride height rule.
Or if they have a flat, they can actually get back because they're not sitting on the diffuser.
Well, that's the whole thing. Get rid of the whole diffuser crap. Let's just make that flat. Let's not get all the intricate downforce pieces and crap in there. We don't want downforce on the bottom of these things. If they got rid of all that downforce on the bottom of the car, I think there's enough horsepower. See, the downforce would be so much less, they have to slow down in the corners.
See,
And there would be enough horsepower to race.
and this comes with the argument I heard Denny Hamlin talking about a while back ago, and I still couldn't understand it. All these things this car was supposed to save money. Well, they put this intricate bottom of a car on it, and then they have to make these what do they call them, hockey pucks or something that they put on each corner so that it never goes down and actually hits the diffuser. Because if they actually destroy the diffuser, it's like $60,000 or $70,000 per diffuser or something like that. Like, why would you create that if it's that expensive? Like, it does it not defeat the purpose of trying to save money?
I think one of the points of the diffuser was trying to have another way to get downforce to the car that's not aero dependent, and it's not paying out.
That's a good point. They were always tired of hearing that, the second car is at a disadvantage because they got the push, from the aero from the first car. So you're right, it doesn't work.
I hate to tell you, if you've ever watched people in the Tour de France or anything like that, the leader always makes it hard. It's harder to get past the person, and it's harder to lead sometimes. There's always going to be a disadvantage. That's the whole point in trying to get by somebody. I know they're trying to make it easier. It's just I think that theory is flawed. Like, if you have something that's poking a hole in the air, you're never going to close it where there's going to put more air back on the vehicle that's behind it.
Well, yeah, drafting is a factor in cycling, like you said. Isn't there an Olympic version of cycling where they're a team of 4 and they take turns drafting so that each of them gets a little bit of a rest?
Yeah, team pursuit. I don't think it's in the Olympics anymore. The team pursuits, but I could be wrong.
I love the
But
theme
yeah,
music
you
we
are
have in
right,
the
though.
background now.
Brian, you have music playing with your voice.
No, Mike had it on.
Oh,
Oh, I was playing the next video. Sorry.
Well, did anybody go over the results of the poll that Jason Patterson put based on this question? So he put a poll in with this, whether the readers we should have a new legacy cars, yes, no, or maybe. And of course, yes won 65% to 31% over no. 3% said maybe. So I think that was a pretty easy poll to win if you wanted it to go in that way, that direction, just because everybody wants more content, more cars, more variety. I worry if they do bring another legacy series in, in, whether it's going to start diluting the legacies of the other legacy cars that are out there. Is 87 going to take a hit if they bring in the 96 Lumina that everybody wants so they can be Cole Trickle, you know?
Point.
Days of Thunder theme pack.
So what I think when I look at the next post, Greg, is I think some guys actually might need this during their Bristol race, unless they get wrecked out early.
I think I heard in my race someone say that they needed to go to the bathroom about 25 minutes in, and I'm like, you got a long way to go, or you better hope you get disqualified. But anyways, this is on iRacing's official Instagram page. It's a track worker staring at a porta potty. Very, very curious. And I was watching. I can't play the video because it'll go through the audio and the thing here. But when Mike had it playing there, I didn't realize there was a wreck going on in the background that he is not paying attention to.
He didn't flinch at all. He's got to go. He's just waiting for that guy to get out so he can take care of business.
But if it looks like the sign's green, he should go in. He needs to go.
He's kind of dancing around like he has to go. Yeah. So get in there, bud.
And Mike, this is the porta potty that we were talking about at Zandervoort, because that's the track that this is on. It was in the fix. So this is the extra week they spent animating the guy that had to go to the bathroom.
You know, these are common.
I was going to say, if you were going to fly around with the camera, can I like go inside the porta potty? You know, when I zoom, do the fly like a bird with the camera, and then is it like all modeled inside? Like, is there a toilet paper roll and all that?
That'd be a shitty camera.
We don't want to hear about your fetishes about porta potties, Mike.
You know, it'd be funny if they used Dale Earnhardt as the crew member waiting for the porta potty or something. He's the guy waiting for the porta potty.
Yeah. So this is a perfect topic for you, Mike, because the first thing you did when you got ready to run your first race was, oh shit, I don't have a setup.
Yeah. I noticed the Draft Master series. I went to go run that right when it opened, the first day. Is open setups. And I decided to exit out of that before, I was committed. Because I don't have a setup for the trucks at Daytona or whatever. And I wasn't ready to build one or try to borrow one or beg for one or buy one or whatever. So I decided not to run this series. And apparently I wasn't the only one who was disappointed. There is a forum post. Justin Egan had posted his disappointment as well. We did hear from staffer Greg West, who chimed in saying that there were technical difficulties with that decision, and they're looking into fixing this in the future, meaning that they couldn't, for some reason, make it fixed sets.
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be they just didn't have fixed sets for every car at the tracks.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't understand why they can't do fixed sets. The only factor in the series that is that you have different cars every week. I don't know if that makes the difference why they're having issues with that or what. But maybe you're right, Dave. Maybe they just didn't have setups for all of them. It seems like simple enough. As long as everybody's running the same set, who cares if it's a good set or not? As long as everybody's on the same one, and you don't have to go hunting for them. But I mean, as far as plate tracks go, anyway, I don't think that setups are as important as they are on like mile and a half or something like that.
I got to interrupt you on that one. I'm sorry.
For qualifying, for sure it is. I'll put it that way.
There may not be that much of a big of a difference if you have a decent set, but you can still have a sucky set and not be able to compete.
I mean, Mike, I think maybe the biggest problem here, Mike, and we're overlooking it, is they were more concerned at getting that porta potty at Zandvoort for that guy to go to the bathroom, and not work on figuring out how to get the fixed setups in.
Well, I think it's definitely hurting participation. If it was fixed, I'd be racing it. This guy Justin Egan would be racing it, and I'm sure there's others. Um, I was thinking I was going to use it to farm some IR, but with it being open sets and me not ready to go find those sets, I'm not going to do it.
So when are we going to get iRacing to actually just go ahead and call this car the Jet Car, Mike?
Well, that'd be certainly a nod to us here in our 400th episode. But on Thursday, 26 sim racers hopped in to their IR01 Dallara, I affectionately call the Jet Car, begin the battle for 25,000 in prizes. Now, I actually caught the beginning of this race on the live stream, and it was interesting. Um, Spa, they go into turn one, and like about third or fourth row back, somebody spins, and like 4 or 5 of them just pile up, and they're not even through turn one. Then up through a Rouge, another 3 or 4 or 5 go off, and so they're not even a quarter of the way through the lap, and a good third of the field has been wrecked. But after that, it kind of settled down, and it frankly it kind of got boring. It was just follow the leader. I didn't see any real racing much after that.
How can you have much racing and half the cars are already dead at a big track? And this is going to happen in a lot of road racing. Did they have to pit even?
I kind of lost interest after several laps and turned it off. So I don't know how it played out.
As frustrating as it can be as a driver, that's why I prefer the multi-class road racing when there is no cautions, because you at least have the randomness, I guess, of traffic that can sometimes throw things in your favor or out of your favor, since you don't have cautions to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think this series is going to get real interesting when they get to week 3 and they go to Texas and do an oval on this with this car. That could get really interesting.
Well, as we're continuing to talk series, we have another open wheel series, Mike, the FIA F4 series.
Yes, I've been running this. iRacing put out a tweet to kind of publicize it for Wednesday and Thursday night here in the U.S. at 7, 9, and 11 p.m. ish in your region. And so anyway, I picked up on it and definitely ran several times. I'm going to hit those results real quick and tell you guys. It was Lime Rock Park. I was wrecked out twice in a row. The second race, I did the fast repair after towing and drove from 23rd back up to 13th. But both times I was wrecked out in like turn one, lap one. So it was a kind of a shit show out there, to be honest. The third race, I got up to around ninth, actually survived turn one, before I wrecked out on my own on lap 14 and I had to tow. There is a fast repair. The trick is you got to turn it on before you get towed. If you tow before you check mark that box, they won't fix your car. So anyway, it's kind of interesting to race American only, just a different flavor. Like I didn't see any blinkers, for example, but I'm interested in running this series, and I'm probably going to run it each week. It works out timing wise for me on Thursday night, so that's what I'm going to do.
And it's only American tracks as well.
Hey, there's Tom Dreiling. Thanks for joining. Did you get any starts on this, Tom?
I did not. I will start next week. But I did like that they separated it into regions. And with that regions, you only go on those region tracks too.
Is the region separation just by time zone, or do you have to live in the region to race the race?
I think you have to be in the region, just like the Aussie supercars.
So
yeah, it was a good turnout too.
Is it separated? Or never mind. I won't go there.
I'm not
Most
sure
people will still
if
be in the
it's.
race.
I'm not sure if you can go across regions or not. If it seemed to me like it was just an open official race that anybody could join. I just think that the time zones or the start times are region friendly. So that's the so they have basically 3 starts on Wednesday and Thursday night each, but the times are all set for these different regions. And like Tom said, the tracks are different too. I like it. Anyway, it's been fun so far. Getting faster in that car. I'm still quite a bit off pace, but podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention that podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it, especially here on episode 400. Get involved in our Discord. Like I said, we're going to do a live watch on the Coke race in 2 weeks on a Tuesday night, so you guys join us there. Check out the show notes at iRacersLounge.com. And we are in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And we now have merchandise available at iRacersLounge.shop. There's a link on our script as well. You can get shirts and hats and giant mouse pads. I got the first merch this week. I ordered a giant Tifosi Racing mouse pad, and I absolutely love it. It's like a big gun mat.
Tifosis are special for us, though.
Yeah, and we have iRacers Lounge merch available for everybody else. I ordered one Tifosi Racing thing. I wanted to have something, but I have all the other stuff has been shipped, and I should have it by next week.
You got yours sent a lot faster than mine. Mine's still projected to ship a week from now. It may be because of one of the specific things I ordered. But it's on there, and let us go check it out, and let's pump those sales. The more sales we get, the better deals we get from the partnership, and then we can start throwing them in some promo codes and stuff. All right, it's time for the fantasy talk. Kick it off, Brian.
All right, guys. So NASCAR was at Kansas Speedway this past week. Taking the win is Tony Grove's wife, Lisa, who not only is his better half in the relationship, but is his better half in fantasy league as well. So congratulations to Lisa for taking the win. She knocked out 242 points, which is a solid week. Mike Wojo finished second with Mud Dog in third. We did have some more Tifosi members in the top 10. We had Steve Thompson, or better known as Dwayne Bluatrani, in fourth place. Tyler Williamson finished tied for sixth. That's Fat Boy 1999. So not too bad representation from Tifosi in the top 10. Wrapping out the overall league standings, Canadian is still in the lead with a 110-point lead over Team Dewan. North-South Racing is in third. So we got Bristol coming up. It should be I think it's going to be a hard race to figure out, just because there's so many moving parts to this final race that's coming up here. Final race of this round of the playoffs.
Right. So Kansas, and then what do we like for Bristol, which is actually going on as we speak?
LaJoy's leading right now.
It's kind of weird having a NASCAR race going on while it feels like the first weekend of the racing season when they had the duels on when we're on the podcast.
Well, I think the discussion this week has really been about silly season. Where's everybody going next year? And boy, there's just tons of rumors and innuendo and different things going on. We had some driver announcements earlier today with Trackhouse and Zane Smith. It seems like Trackhouse has too many drivers to me.
There was also a big uh, charter purchase, right?
Well, see, the whole thing is they hired Zane Smith at Trackhouse as a fourth driver, but they only have 3 cars. So Spire Motorsports bought a charter for $40 million from Go Fast Racing, I think. And then Zane Smith is going to drive for Spire, like on a lease or on a 1-year loan or something.
The price tag on the charter. What'd you think of that?
Well, I think it was $6 million for a charter just 4 years ago, and now it's 40.
No wonder Dale Jr.'s not in Cup.
Yeah, especially when they don't have the new TV deal laid out, right?
The one driver, I forget his name, who runs his own team. He's one of the low end teams. I forget his. Yeah, maybe it was BJ McLeod. He was saying on Twitter today that this is really the end of the low end teams. I mean, this is a rich boys play club at this point, the way the charter pricing has gone. And it's going to exclude teams like him.
I don't know if he can complain, though. His charter just went from whatever he paid for it through the roof if he sells it. How can you complain to Rich Boy Sports? Because you just got rich if you sell it.
When was it ever not a Rich Boys Play Club?
What was I saying? The pinnacle of racing?
And, you know, it's hard to say what the value of these things are. It's really how much money somebody's willing to spend for it, too. And so the question is where did Spire get this money? And I think Donnie said it was Andretti and Gainsbridge, the ones that are trying to get into F1 and all that, and they're trying to buy into NASCAR apparently. Got some big sponsorship apparently.
So we can't say much about, I guess, this week, obviously, or unless you want to make your predictions right now as the race is going.
I predict it's going to be ruined by rain.
They did move it up earlier to try to help that, so it may just get shortened.
They keep going to the radar, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I think Martin Truex Jr. is who I'm watching tonight. You know, how's it going to play out for him? Can Kevin Harvick make something happen? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was crazy. Truex was out of that race 2 laps in last week. That was terrible.
Well, whatever Mike's looking at, only one of those is doing good right now.
I put money on Alex Bowman and Corey LaJoie getting the top 10.
Ooh. Those are some good odds.
Let's hit up some hardware software sponsored by Metro Ford of Chicago. Opening up with a little bit of a software. Been hearing guys talk about it all week about trading paints acting weird. And we have a fix.
Yep. If you're seeing paints that look odd, it's because you go into in-sim options and uncheck the video memory swap high-res car option under graphics. The sim has stamped the number, which is in a weird spot. This is the iRacing cache acting up. It's not a trading paints problem. So if you don't have that check mark to swap high-res cars, then you potentially could see the problem. They show another tweet where they actually show where the check mark is in the lower right in the graphics section.
Is that a new tab? I don't recognize it. Has it only been here for a couple of builds?
No, that's been there for a long time. I've never known exactly what it does.
But yeah, there's a article they also posted about it, but it said there's nothing that can be done on our end. They are working with iRacing to get to the bottom of it.
Well, Justin, how do you feel about the projections on the new video on this next video?
Yeah, Basement Formula posted a video asking if using a BenQ projector works as well enough in iRacing, and I actually haven't seen this video yet, but this projector looks phenomenal from first glance.
It does. I mean, he's got like a kind of a wraparound ovalish kind of screen, and he's got 3 projectors hanging from the ceiling. They're 1080p, 4 millisecond delay, and the video he basically says it is quick enough to race with. So a lot of people were concerned about projectors having delays because when you use 3 of them, you have to use some software to kind of stitch them together, and that software can present delays. And so he ran it at 4K at 60 hertz with a 16 millisecond delay, and then he ran it in another pattern as well. But the overall consensus was it was fine. Now, my concern with this kind of setup is heat and noise from the projectors, and you need a ton of space.
That's one way to heat your house in the winter.
It's definitely going to bring up your electric bill as well, on top because of the heat being produced, unless you're using it to reduce. I mean, if you have to heat more than often than cool, might be a good thing. But if you live in Arizona, probably not.
All right, so it's a hard no for me.
Is it just me, or does it just? It doesn't seem like it looks that great. I mean, it could be perspective based, but it just doesn't seem that great.
Well, it almost doesn't feel realistic, and I guess I'm really spoiled by VR, so because even the triples don't feel that realistic. But especially with the curves, there's some places where the angle just seems wrong.
It's almost like he's got too much angle on these screens, to me. Yeah, I don't know. Is it worth it? That's the thing. I don't think it's worth it.
I'm actually surprised it's not more distorted, because it's just one projector projecting around this, this hemispherical screen, and you would think that would start really, really throw off the image. But while it is, you do see some distortion. It's not nearly as bad as I would have thought it would have been.
So there's actually 3 projectors, Brian. Go to the 25-second mark of the video, and you'll see.
Yeah, you can see the joint. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
but
you don't have a bezel.
I was going to say it's still better than a bezel.
The 4K, when he gets further into the video here and he shows the difference between the 4K and the 1080p, the 4K one kind of looks more like it seems like it's missing color. Like it seems more gray.
I think it's cloudy.
Yeah, but I just feel like it was missing.
You're
something.
right. Look at the sky, Greg. The blue sky is way different.
Yeah, because it's not a blue sky; it's a gray sky. It's cloudy.
So it's not the same track he's comparing side by side. That's kind of odd, but I don't know. I mean, projectors are an idea. I just think the noise and heat is a hard no for me. The screen, it looks expensive that he has. So I know projectors like that are probably at least $1,000 each. You got to get 3 of them.
Can't you get for like $3,000? Get that good VR, that one 4K VR.
You could do the 55-inch triples, like I've been drooling over. Do proper triples, big triples.
Well,
now Tom, look, I was going to throw this over to Tom. Tom, you were talking about doing a triple purchase here soon. I mean, what are your thoughts? Oh, we lost Tom.
Yeah, he must have stepped
All
away.
right, sorry, Brian.
No problem. I was gonna say, don't the factory sims have projectors on it? I think it's on a flat screen, but still, and it's a huge screen. But isn't that what the factories use for their sims?
Yeah,
Like Chevy and Ford, yeah.
but it's
Yeah, I think they.
but it is the best of the best, and
Right, it's not something you pick up.
its own written software that runs the program. It's not using a software to manipulate the picture.
Well, back in the day, I used to work in commercial audio visual in hotels. And I can tell you that with projectors and stitching projector screens together, there's definitely consumer grade hardware and there's commercial grade hardware. And I bet you for sure that the manufacturers like Chevy are using these commercial grade projectors that are probably 2 millisecond or less and very high nit brightness and so forth. That cost several $1,000s, not like a consumer projector like we're seeing in these videos.
There's a reason that they have Ford, Chevy, and Toyota have their own sims, and not the teams aren't doing their own in-house sims.
Right.
Well, Mike, I definitely think Hugh should cover the next one.
Oh yeah, Alex K shows
Get
us
outta
how
here
the
with
Philips
that
Hue
one.
lighting. The Philips Hue lighting system was one of his next sim racing upgrades, complete with tutorial. So tutorials on this are kind of hard to come by. Lots of times when I have found them on YouTube, they're in foreign languages. So it's nice to see a new video or a newer video that covers this topic. And I actually watched it and kind of did a refresh of my Philips Hue setup by going into the Philips Hue app, readjusting the position of the light. Like you have to put these little dots on a picture of a television inside the app as part of the process. And then you have to, while you're in the game or in the sim, either draw a window or go full screen of what you're trying to replicate the light from. So typically you draw a box along the dash of the car you're driving. And way it picks up the lighting that's hitting that dash basically and changes accordingly. And so if you're buying into the Philips Hue lighting system for ambient lighting, is what it's for. This is a great video to get you on the right track on how to set it up, how to use it effectively. There's different setup for day driving and there's a different setup for night driving. And so it's good to go through a video like this if you're trying to set that up. I love the system. I think it's expensive. It's, at the end of the day, I have 3 bulbs above and I have 2 bars and I have a big long strip. So I have 5 devices and a hub, and I've probably have invested $500 or $600 into it. But it's a nice upgrade. It really is.
Now, Mike, did you have that running when we were at Darlington?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would get bright as I go down the backstretch. As the sun was hitting the dash, absolutely. It's subtle though. It's not like it's very subtle effect. But with the wind sim and the light, and the noise from the wind sim, it all together is a really neat touch. And so, if you're looking for an upgrade, yeah, this is Philips Hue is a neat idea.
I still think about the Boosted Media video when he had it set up. Now he had it set up in Assetto Corsone, I think, and he was doing it in the rain with lightning flashes, and I thought that was really cool. Obviously, we don't have that in iRacing at this time, but that was the one thing that I remember seeing that really stood out as the potential of what Hue lighting can do.
unrealistic. We don't
It's
race in thunderstorms.
it's the other thing I'm gonna caution everybody. It's it's hard to dial it in perfectly. Okay, every car is different. You're gonna have to make adjustments depending on what time of day it is. Um, this aren't it isn't like a set and forget. Now that's how I've done it. I've set it up and I kind of forget about it, and it's not perfect. Okay, so like if there's lightning while I'm driving, I might get a glimpse of it, but it's not going to be that dramatic effect that he was able to dial in. The other way that you got to remember with that boosted media is he was blacking out everything. He was making sure the lights were very directional and pointed in a very specific way at a specific part of his body and so forth. So he really had to dial it in to get that perfect effect. And it can be a struggle if you think that, oh, I'm going to set this up once and it's going to be perfect. It can be a challenge to get it to where it works.
All right, Justin, let's talk about the Gomez Hyper P1.
Yeah, Devender Singh. I don't know how to say that last name. Reviews on his own YouTube channel, the Gomez Industries Hyper P1 wheel. I haven't watched this video yet. I'm just an oval guy. I'm learning about these formula wheels.
This wheel's been around for a while, but we got a new review of it here. These things aren't cheap. I just did a Google search on it and hit shopping, and Track Racer has one on sale for $1,300. Micro Center $1,440 with dual clutch. So
isn't that about the range of that type of wheel though these days?
It is. The review was good. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of bad things to say about it.
I like the kind of gold finish, or not gold. Well, yeah, gold and red finish, and those colors are kind of my favorite colors there on the knobs.
And you can change that too, Mike or Dave. When you place the order for it, it's customizable. You pick the color you want your knobs and all to be, and that's how it comes.
Because there's neon lighting too. If you look at the beginning of the video around the knobs.
Yeah. If I was big into formula racing and wasn't in VR and had unlimited budgets, this would be I think this would the one I'd be going with as far as formula wheels. I think this is the best one that I've seen. The Porsche one that we saw last week was really good too, but that was like that's $1,000 almost more than this particular one. So I would put this at the top of my wish list if I was doing something like that.
I feel like when I look at this, it reminds me of, it's like the Top Gun of steering wheels. It's an instrument gauge. It feels like just the whole front of it, but it's beautiful looking. I love the finishes on it, like David was saying with the colors, and if you can have different anodized colors, it'd be really good. But this is definitely the best of the best for what you're. If you're looking at I would definitely look into this wheel too if I was going for something like that.
Made in the United States. I think that's a factor for a lot of Americans. We want to try to buy in the U.S. But you can. Their website is great. I'm looking at the website now, and you click on the Hyper P1, and you can pick like the pre-designed colors, like the Tony Kanaan green, or the bright purplish one, or the yellow, or you can like Brian said, customize from there. You can even pick what hub you want to go with it. If you have a semi-cube wheelbase, you can actually get the quick release right from them to go mounted straight onto the wheel.
That's a key thing when you're looking at these sites nowadays too, to have the right hub attachments instead of trying to order the wheel from one site and then the hub attachment from another site. Like it's That's really convenient that they and well thought out that they add that into their site.
And you can ask them to install it as well. So it comes pre-installed. So if you have a DD1, you can order the Fanatec Podium Hub to be pre-installed on your Gomez wheel. Now, which one did Donnie get? Is this the one Donnie got? Or did he get the one without the display?
Not sure about that one.
I'm not either. But the other concern about this is weight. I heard it's heavy. And any kind of heavy wheel can really dampen your force feedback on the motor. And so you have to be careful about having too heavy of a wheel.
I don't think that matters nowadays as much with the direct drives than it did before when it was like gear driven or belt driven wheels.
Yeah, that's a
That they
good
used to
point.
have, right? The direct drives are, you know, so much force is just coming straight through on there. I don't think it makes a huge difference. And having a heavier wheel too would help with some of the control too with the direct drive.
Anyway, really good review. A nice look at this wheel again. It's certainly, like David said, valid choice to pick when you're in a market, in that price range.
All right, Brian, are we looking at your next motion rig?
So not for me, but CXC Simulations has a off-road truck simulator, and it's basically a truck. So it's like a full body truck that is on these giant motion actuators, and they said everybody's loving it. I don't see how you could not love it. It's like a full size rig. I don't know where the screens and all are, on this thing. Maybe it's just VR. If it is, then what's the point of having a full body truck? I don't know, but it's still pretty cool because this whole truck is moving as you're driving in an off-road race. It's pretty cool.
Is it just
Go to the
VR?
second picture, you'll see it's VR.
Did we just do an article just like
Yeah.
this? Very similar?
Now the question,
Yeah, I think we did.
the question I need answered right now, Brian, is if Steve Thompson put this in his house, would he hit the roof of his? Would he hit when he's testing it out? Would he damage the roof this time instead of his wall with his motion?
Probably would. I mean, it's a full-size vehicle, and it's probably 2-3 feet off the ground almost to get the actuators under it so it can move it around freely. So it's going to take up some space for sure. But then again, and again, if you're in VR, why do you need to have all this if it's just for VR? That's what gets me kind of weirded out.
Good point.
Maybe because
It's more of a commercial this is for commercial purposes. You put this in a theme park or something, and people pay to, or
Pay
they
to
line up
yeah.
to get into it. Yeah.
It's part of the attraction. You see other people in it. It looks really cool. Looks like he's got a Aero VR headset too.
The only thing about this design is I see this, like you said, a full-size vehicle, and even if it might not have an engine in it and stuff, there's certainly some weight to it. I mean, there's real tires on this and wheels, and there's suspension parts and everything. I mean, it's like a full-size vehicle kind of mounted up on these 3 or 4 actuators right in the middle. And I'm just like, well, how is that thing even holding it up, let alone, jostling it about and moving it about? The whole thing looks kind of precarious, but yeah.
my question is does it fit also like sit down compact so that they can get it out of there, or does it stay up on those uprights the way it is and kind of you just have to roll it around? Like it just seems like it's really hard to. How would you move it from places to place?
Yeah, ship it. Yeah, take it apart. And yeah, it looks like it would be a little bit cumbersome. Now, CXC Simulations, I mistakenly thought this was the motion company that Joe Owen bought from, but Joe Owen bought from a different place. This place is out of Southern California, CXC, and they're known for having the what I call shock absorbers on the back of the seat. So they have like two big old shocks that come to the top corner of the seat, and they mount down at the cockpit, and they just kind of move the seat, about. And that's what they're famous for, as far as their core product.
Next up, friend of the show, Dave Cam reviews the SimLab XP1 load cells. It's about a 22-minute long video. I didn't get time to watch it. Who did?
I got parts of it. Lots of adjustability. Put in, different elastomers and easy to adjust. Like you don't need tools to adjust. It was one of the caveats. He liked them. I don't think he was crazy about them, but everything, SimLab puts out is decent, and this is no exception. Now you compare these, for example, to the Cube controls that we saw. The Cube controls were load cell as well, and they were $1,100, and you couldn't even get a clutch. And then there was a problem with the preload slipping every time you push the pedal. And so you compare that to this, which is $539. You can get a clutch, and for make it $700 for all three. And like I said, SimLab is known for quality.
All right, we still got a few topics on the script, Mike, but do you see any of them you want to hit before we move on to results? Because we are getting a little time crunched.
Yeah, let's do the last one briefly before we move on. The Next Level Racing FGT Elite Cockpit has been reviewed by Will Ford at Boosted Media. It's a convertible style cockpit that allows you to go from GT to Formula style, thus the name of it. Now, as Will graciously points out, it's not easy to convert from one to the other. You basically have to take everything apart and kind of start over because everything is kind of interconnected. And so it is possible, but his take is you're going to set it one way and you're going to forget it. It's not like you're going to switch this thing out on a daily routine.
When I started first looking at rigs, I considered looking into this. For one reason, I just wondered if it would actually be more comfortable to sit in Formula One position because of sitting in a chair and having the tailbone fall asleep on you. But every rig I looked at that switches, it was too much of a process.
Yeah, I don't see how you can make it easily convertible without sacrificing tons of the stability and all that you get in one of these 80/20 rigs.
The more adjustments you got, the weaker it is. The more flex, usually.
Good point. And talking about flex, there's some flex. If you look at where he's flexing the wheel around the 23-minute mark, this is what turned me off from buying Next Level Racing initially when I bought my rig. When I was going to buy the SimLab P1X, it was a close tie with the Next Level Racing GT edition that they had out brand new at the time. And one of the reasons I didn't pick it was the small amount of movement you see in the wheelbase when you move it about. And so that was enough for me to pick a different option. And seeing this video, some 2 years later, I really feel good I picked the right one because the flex is still there. It's not much, but it's there. Now, I think it has to do with the uprights not being straight up and down. They're at an angle, which is like this company's style, or I guess is the way to say it. But they always put the uprights at an angle. Okay, we're going to jump over to results. NIS. Let's finish up last week. And there are none for last week. Am I missing something here?
Don't you got to go all the way down to Wednesday Open because the pod doing a different date?
Something got mixed up here. Sorry. Yeah, so let's start with Wednesday Open. Well, we had Kansas to finish up. So let's talk about Kansas. It looks like we have Kansas Sunday Open. Tony, P22, started P24, ran a clean and uneventful race. Got to 40 to go, and some guy fenced a guy, then came down across my nose, and the car was dead. The guy apologized. I would be lying if I said I hadn't done something dumb on here. Sunday Fix, Justin, P last.
Yeah, this was the shortest race I've ever ran. Half a lap, guy spun in front of me. I picked the wrong lane. A little bit of damage, got it fixed up by the next restart, and then a guy spun directly in front of me and got the meatball. Done.
Wow. Not even one full lap, huh?
Nope.
All right, let's move on to Wednesday Open at Bristol. I got a DNF about lap 150, a huge pileup for 5 cars. They were up against the wall. I came around the corner. I was on the high end at full speed. I didn't even see him at all, and I plowed right into him. 50 seconds. Optional and over 10 minutes required. I couldn't even drive it back to the pit. I actually got some repairs done, and I went back out, and I was trying to roll around the apron just to get another lap. And as I rolled around the apron, I lost control of the car, and it went up onto the track. And I quickly hit the escape key, and I got out before somebody wrecked into me. But, DNF for me. David, P6.
Yeah, before I talk about that, I've seen that kind of a wreck happen at Bristol, live, even in a Legends race where they had a bunch of older fellas running a race. And I don't know if they were running without spotters or not, but a guy came around and T-boned a guy at full speed. And that wasn't even a pileup. P6. I think I was the only survivor of the night, man. It was carnage for Tifosi. He was getting knocked out. And I was doing my best to stay out of trouble, and actually ended up with 16X with 20 to go. And there was even a caution after that, which I could have gotten involved in, evaded it. So the next start was going to be green, white, checkered. And at that point, I realized everybody that was laps down was like 2 or 3 laps down. And because they had all gotten their 16X penalty already. So at that point, I realized I would not serve the black flag. I would just take 1 lap penalty and at least still finish about 15th or so. So I was a little bit less worried, but I stayed safe and survived to come home 6th. The race had a lot of cautions, but was not as bad as like a Martinsville usually was, or even the last Darlington I ran. And I actually, with the 16X, gained an entire point of safety rating.
Long race. All right, Justin, P27.
Yeah, I had a fast car. It was on me. I just overdrove it on the outside. I got so caught up in not going a lap down. I was scared because the last race I went a lap down, could never catch it up, and I screwed up.
All right. And then Chris Waldron.
Let me interrupt. At Bristol, you can still finish 10th a lap down sometimes. So you almost have to think of it that way.
Yep. And Chris Waldron ran. He got a P19. Should have drove around for the first 400 laps, was P8 and got wrecked on lap 150. After 15 minutes of repair, I finished P19, 80 laps down, past 11 cars while racing wreck. Greg, it says you killed it.
Yeah, I think Tom should write the same thing right below it because I was following him on the exit of a corner, and his car got loose and went straight down to the wall. And I did the exact same thing, followed him straight down to the inside wall. It was pretty much the same wreck with each other. I think I did more damage. He kept going, but I just totally destroyed the car. It never got loose all race coming off the corner like that. Actually, I think the only other time is when I actually had a little bit of contact with David when he yelled at me for not racing him with tires against no tires. But that was just a mistake on my part.
Yeah, I mean, I was more speaking to the whole crowd, like I said on that. There was a lot of guys, whether there was tires or not. If somebody does run me down, unless there's somebody that I've have a reason to harass, I will just go ahead and tuck in behind them, not just because it's better for them, but I use up less car instead of racing them for 10 laps, and usually have better long run on the long run.
I was having the glitch from what do you call it? We were saying it was trading paints, but obviously it looks like it's an iRacing problem. But I had no paints. The only paint scheme that would show up was mine. David's car was. It looked like it had been painted backwards because I think the headlights were in the back of the car at some point on it. It was just odd looking, and there's nothing you can do when you're in the middle of the race.
Yeah, that's where that JRT relative that I created that shows me where my teammates are on the relative is really handy because you always show up as green, and then I can always see the guys that I don't want to be nice to as well.
Okay. Thursday fix, Justin P17.
Oh yeah, E17. I made it to lap 150. I actually led 80 laps of this, and I got 12 X's on restarts. Everybody just checking up and hit me, and then I think I went down to third place, and the guy in second place tried to pass me and washed up and got me. I was done.
Right. And then Tony put wrecked out, couldn't avoid a spinning car. Let's move on to Friday Open Bristol. I ran right before halfway. I was sitting at 16 incidents and 6 minutes optional damage. Finally, I got a DQ'd out for completing too many incidents. I think I was at 25. Tom Dreiling, he ran. He also DQ'd out as well. Tony Rochette, P4, avoided stuff, stayed clean. Lap cars blocked him from racing against second and third with 10 to go. I actually spotted for Tony the last few laps of his race. There were only 4 cars on the lead lap, and he was finished 4th, basically. So great run for him. And let's see, what other results did we run here? I ran some Chris McGuire hosted supercars at Michigan. We had to pit for fuel, and when we did, nobody could get fuel. Everybody was actually stuck in the pit, and the pit cars would not fuel. The pit crews would not fuel the car. So there's some kind of bug. Chris said he was going to report it to iRacing, like write him an email or something. But yeah, I mean, he set up a fuel mileage race, and they wouldn't give us fuel. And so nobody won the race. It was odd. And with that, we're going to jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
Buy merch. That's all.
Yeah, get some good merch. Quality so far has been really good. The mouse pad I got, very pleased with it. Couldn't be better. Greg Hectus, final thought.
I actually was just looking back to see what episode I made my first appearance on the podcast, and it was episode 117. So I've been around since the 117 mark, which was March of 2018. So That's how long I've been around Team Tifosi and the iRacers Lounge. I was a listener way up before that, but that's how long I've been on the show. It's great to see that we got to this point. Um, I look forward to another 400 episodes. I'm hoping the Sim's around long enough to have 400 more episodes, and there's all kinds of content for the next bit of time. But Mike, thanks for keeping this going all the time. I know we didn't get the Thursday this week, but we kind of just made it work tonight. We moved it back half an hour so I could even get in tonight because I was I had worked a 13-hour shift today. But yeah, I just want to say congratulations to all the guys that make this podcast what it is.
Yeah, and we didn't do anything super special because this fell when things are just crazy right now. Plus, it's 400. I think we're going to save it all up for the 500 and do something huge.
There's a $400 or 400 episode sweater, is there not, on the merchandise site?
Yeah, I pretty much designed that because I need a new hoodie, and so I was like, I'll just get that. So there's one with the 400 on there. So if you want that, check it out.
I think I asked somebody in Discord, how many podcasts have done 400 episodes? I don't think there's a lot of them, to be honest.
If they're at 400, they're a daily podcast, not a weekly podcast.
Right, 400 on a weekly, yeah, that's something to say. Anyway, I'm real proud of it. I don't think I've done all 400. I think I've missed probably 5 to 8 of them. Usually I miss one over Thanksgiving or Christmas. I usually skip one, and so it's been going on for 7 or 8 years now. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about it, and let's just keep it rolling. All right, Brian McCubbin, final thought?
Yeah, I also want to thank everybody for listening. You guys are all the reasons that we're here and that we do this. Obviously we love iRacing and we love talking about it. But without people to listen, it's not really a show. And also I want to thank Mike quite a bit. He won't take nearly the credit that is due him to keep this going. He is the force behind this whole operation. He's does so much work for it. You guys have no idea, and it's all for the love of the racing and the love of talking about it and getting it out to you guys who are listening. So, thank you, Mike, and everybody else too who puts in tons of work. David, tons of work. Greg, tons of work, and everybody else who contributes to this podcast.
Yeah, it takes a village, and you're right. I do the content. Somebody's got to, but I don't spend a lot of time on it, to be honest. Maybe 10 minutes a day at the most, 7 days a week, and then 2 hours during record, and maybe 30 minutes when we post the show.
But I think, Mike, if you even look at if somebody just had an eagle view or was in our messenger, wasn't participating in it, but even saw our messenger and how we interact all week and leading up to the show, the content that's added or the discussions that go on in Messenger, that's where a lot of the passion comes from. We can see it a lot of the times with you as well. You're always trying to stir up something conversation-wise. Today was a big... I know I put my phone down for 10 minutes or 15 minutes at work, and I came back with a whole discussion about Trackhouse, so...
Yeah, so we keep it going, and it's fun. And so we're always looking for people to join us, this particular group. If you want to get involved in the podcast and the production of it, let us know. Hit me up. All right, Justin Pearson, final thought.
Yeah, I just want to say congrats, guys, on your 400th episode. It's crazy to think about. Just 2 years ago, I was a fanboy, and I kind of based my rig decisions on Mike when he was building his. I was just a listener. I thought, man, it'd be cool to be on here. And next thing I know, I sent you guys a message, and I blink, and I'm on a podcast. I'm like, what the heck? So, but to go off of Mike's statement about getting new team members, it's really easy. Just contact somebody and say hey and be down to earth and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, come race with us and win. That's part of it too.
Then another thing.
Not.
Oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
Mike. Then another thing too, I think it would help out also is if the listeners, when you guys do buy merch, if you could just post a selfie or a picture of you wearing the merch and post it on our Discord, and maybe you guys can elaborate on where to put it on the Discord. But I think that would help a lot.
Definitely tag us if you tweet it or anything in socials.
Yeah, we want to see it for sure. I'll put up some pictures of my stuff as well as it comes in. As far as the podcast, yeah, the listeners is what it's all about, guys, and it's always fun to interact and race with people that are listen to the show, and I kind of like doing the show for that lone guy out there. There's so many iRacers that are not on a team; they're just one man shows. And how did they get knowledge about the sim, about the hardware scene? And I'm glad that we have that outlet for them. Those loners can listen to us talk as a group. We on a weekly basis about what's going on, and I think there's a lot of value there, and I'm glad to hear from listeners that like to hear it. Tom Dreiling, you were here briefly. I don't know if you're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. I just didn't.
Right, your
I
final
got in a little
thoughts.
late. It's been great with the team. I don't even know how long I've been with you guys. Unfortunately, because of my work schedule, I'm not able to be on the podcast and everything. Hopefully in November, if something goes right between us, I'll come back for a nice little talk.
Let's talk about the points championship. You and I are in deep battle for the championship lead. You have it by what 130 something points right now. What are you
Yeah,
thinking
something
as we
like that.
go into these final drop weeks?
I think the drop weeks are going to be major. I like a few of the tracks. I don't like a couple of tracks. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
It will, and I'm glad that it's you and I racing it out, keeping each other honest, making us earn it. You're going to win it. I'm going to win it. There is a guy in third that's coming. Hopefully, won't be in the mix. Just be the two of us.
Yeah, like I've said before, I'll be happy either way if it's one of us two, as long as the car has iRacers Lounge on it.
There you go. It's been a great year. I've had some good wins. You've had some win. You've had how many wins? One, I think.
Just one at California so far.
Right. And I believe I've had two. So, yeah. So the problem I have in this championship is you're roughly 1,000 iRating more than I am right now. So you're getting more points for the same finish. So, yeah, I have a steep hill to climb, and I know it. But you might falter, and I'll be right there.
There's a reason why we run all the races.
All right. Well, thanks, Tom, for coming on and talking. Yeah, we definitely have you on at the end of the season. We'll wrap up the competition here. My final thoughts. Yeah, I can't believe 400. I've been running the same work schedule for about 2 or 3 years, and it's worked out great for the podcast. However, everything changes at Verizon. They fired 70% of us and shipped those jobs overseas. I'm one of the remaining 30%. I've been retrained, repurposed. I'm tech support now, and that means a new schedule. And so we're bidding on new schedules. It'll start November 5th. I have no idea what my days off are going to be. It might not be the same days off, which means we're going to reschedule the podcast recording. So that's daunting, trying to herd cat, trying to get the people to show up at the right time every week. So I'm kind of nervous about that. I hope we can figure out a good recording time that works with my schedule and keep this thing going. So that's my concern, but we'll work it out, I'm sure. Happy to hear from listeners. If you guys like what we're doing, hit us up on the social media and let us know. And with that, we'll see you on the track. Later. All right, title ideas. We have 6 to choose